I'm Jess. Welcome to the Rochester Press Box from MacGregor's.
The Rochester Press Box is brought to you by MacGregor's Grill and Tap Room, now with 6 locations, including the newest at East and Alexander, featuring in-house catering for parties. MacGregor's, a beer lover's paradise. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Rochester Press Box here from MacGregor's downtown. I'm Bill Pucko. First order of business is to introduce our esteemed panel. Kevin Oklobzija, welcome to the program. Democrat Chronicle, hockey, baseball, and horse riding writer. Appreciate your presence. John DiTullio, WHTK, doing a little morning radio.
Good to be here. Making time for you. Anything for you, Billy.
Right, and Mike Catalana, 13 Wham TV Sports.
Good to be back.
All righty. First order of business into Kevin's wheelhouse. State of hockey these days with a possible settlement on the horizon in the National Hockey League lockout. But where should hockey be trying to position itself?
I thought they'd done a pretty good job after the last lockout of becoming more relevant to more people. And the contract with NBC Sports helps a lot. I mean, it gives them what I assume in a few years will be a more powerful entity on network TV. It's not going to be ESPN, but it gives them a national contract. It gives them some footing. But this lockout, I mean, they find a way so many times to just shoot themselves in the foot. And they had traction, they had momentum, they had people talking hockey, and now it falls apart again. Will it get down to a lot of positive things? But who knows? By the time they actually get talking the real matters, not just hockey.
Is the problem hockey in cities that don't necessarily deserve it? I mean, Minnesota, Philadelphia, Boston, Erie, great hockey towns. But what about these? What about the Tampas, the Dallas, the Phoenix?
Well, and that's the thing. Dallas draws very well. I think their corporate support's okay too. But it's very simple. The players know it. I don't know, and the owners unfortunately won't go for it. They need revenue sharing. The NFL has built the ultimate sports business model. Everything is shared. And the NHL, the big people, the Phillies, the New Yorks, and the Chicagos, they refuse to give up the money they make in their market, and it's not right. They were glad to take the expansion money from Tampa and from Phoenix and from wherever, but now they don't want to share the money that those teams gave them in the beginning. So it's going to hurt, and until they do that, I don't think those cities are ever going to have a strong foothold.
You know what I'm curious about? I don't know what Kevin's take is on this. I'm hearing this about the possible expansion into 2 more Canadian cities. I don't know how much you're hearing about that. And I'm wondering, is that just a bone that's being thrown out there to the players to say, here's, 60 more jobs? Or would they really go into Toronto again and have another team there?
Expansion will mean somebody else fails.
So it'll be pulling another team.
Well, they may expand and then fail. And it may go in Quebec. It'll probably work in Quebec City again, but Phoenix or someone else will die along the way.
In Toronto, possibly getting 2 teams, that's been rumored.
It's been talked about for a long time, and you would think it would work. If New York can have 3 in that market, then how does Toronto, the alleged or the given mecca of hockey?
Yeah. I'm just surprised at the owners. And it just caved. All of a sudden now we're talking 50-50 when they said it wouldn't even happen.
We don't know how they're defining the hockey-related revenue, and we don't know what other cutbacks and takebacks there were.
Maybe I'm wrong. This seemed to be less about owner versus player, but rather owner versus owner, as you just mentioned with the revenue sharing. Then in the end, it is the haves versus the have-nots.
And the players were smart. Their initial offer called for revenue sharing, and I honestly believe Donald Fair, I don't think there's any doubt, his hope was to plot owner against owner. The small market owners would now be more on the players' side, and they would have some leverage within the Board of Governors. But
as we wrap that up, though, Donald Fair is like a lightning rod name. We remember him from baseball.
But should he be? They haven't had a stoppage in baseball since '94.
But isn't that largely since he left the scene? I mean, is he helping or hurting the process in hockey?
I think he is forcing the owners to really pay attention to what they're doing and make sure it's right this time.
He looks good next to Gary Bettman. So does anybody like Gary Bettman? Do you like Gary
4 stoppages under his watch, Gary Bettman.
I'm not sure how
He's got the personality of a soap dish. Seriously.
There's some nice soap dishes.
When we come back, we'll talk about the New York Yankees. Is it time to break up the Bombers?
Hi, I'm Emily, and you're watching the Rochester Press Box from MacGregor's.
This segment of the Rochester Press Box is brought to you by George Larry State Farm Insurance, 2761 East Henrietta Road. Quality value at a competitive price. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Rochester Press Box here from MacGregor's downtown. This segment brought to you by George Larry State Farm Insurance. All right, everyone loves to talk about the Yankees. Usually when you talk about breaking up the Yankees, it's because they're too good. That's really not the case now, is it?
Well, I mean, in theory, yeah, break them up. But how are you going to break up this team? You've got Teixeira, Cano, you're talking about Granderson, you're talking about the Jeter, A-Rod, all under contract. I mean, you can not bring back Nick Swisher, which I think the way he's this postseason probably doomed him. He's on a train out of New York. But really, where do you break up the Yankees? The only guys that are not under contract, Russell Martin, Curtis Granderson. You got 5 more years, you're stuck with A-Rod.
Is this bad planning? I mean, does Cashman have to take a hit for this?
Yeah, he does, but that's when you're operating as the New York Yankees, and they want him to go out and spend the money. The A-Rod deal might go down as the dumbest money decision in the history of the franchise. And I'm not even talking about, the Kevin Brown signings and whatever it is. It was the fact you had this guy under this amount of time, and the comical thing was they appeared to be so worried about him not setting the home run record as a New York Yankee. Well, one, he's not going to set it, I don't think, or I don't know what he's going to end up doing. But even if he does, no one likes him. No one likes the record. It's because of the steroids. So that part's going to be a joke. And like John said, they're stuck with it. I still think they're going to find a way to either buy him out, sell him off, do whatever to get him off that roster.
Kevin, with all the complaining about this team, still, it's the American League Championship Series. It's the second best team in the American League. It set the bar awfully high for these guys.
Absolutely, but it's amazing how they've just fallen apart as a team. I mean, did they rely just on an all-or-nothing swing the whole year and hit home runs in Williamsport, Bronx? I think that's a big part of it. You can't see it. When they have to move a runner over, they can't. There are very few guys that Gardner can, but he can't play. He's always hurt.
It's old school Orioles where Earl Weaver used to play for the three-run homer. That's what the Yankees have become, and that's what they were all year.
But they don't. But I don't think they play the defense that the old Orioles teams could. I mean, you'd think they'd be able to, but they don't necessarily. And A-Rod, is he liked on that team? Like, why is it every time he has a big hit, the first thing, he's the only guy in baseball I've ever seen do this. He looks to the dugout in the home games. When they're in the first base dugout, he hits a ball to the gap or he hits a walk-off home run. The first thing he does is look at the dugout and go like, see what I did for you guys?
It isn't like, it's so funny because in a general sense, wanting to be liked isn't perceived as a bad thing, but it hangs on A-Rod like it just weighs him down, wanting to be liked.
You know what bothers me most about this team is that you got Derek Jeter there. And they got Robinson
Reggie didn't
Cano.
want to be liked. He didn't care if he was liked. He was Reggie.
He was distraught and Thurman Munson hated his guts until he started hitting home runs in the playoffs. But you got Robinson Cano, who's played next to Derek Jeter for how many years? And Jeter, who plays the game harder than Jeter? Robinson Cano is a talent. But do you see anybody more, I don't want to use the word lazy.
Nonchalant.
That drop on the double play exchange in Game 2 was
embarrassing.
That's the right word.
When you're playing next to Derek Jeter, you think you would have picked up maybe a few good habits. That's what bothers me most about this team is the play of Robinson Cano. It shatters me to watch him nonchalant everything.
And I know this is heresy to say this, but a little bit of that falls on Jeter. I think Jeter is a phenomenal leader, but there are times he plays this kind of the cool role, and I don't think he says a lot. I mean, he certainly hasn't. I don't think he's really helped A-Rod all that much. I don't know if you could help him, but even with Cano, don't you think there'd be a point where
you would hope there was a conversation
to it a little bit? I know that's not his personality, but if anybody on that team could do it, it's him.
When we return, we'll ask, do you like it or not?
Hi, I'm Alexa. You're watching the Rochester Press Box from MacGregor's.
This portion of the Rochester Press Box is brought to you by Sticky Lips Barbecue, featuring the All-American Menu and the Atomic Bomb Challenge. Sticky Lips on Culver Road across from East High and the Juke Joint on Jefferson. Welcome back to the Rochester Press Box from MacGregor's downtown. This portion of the Press Box brought to you by Sticky Lips Barbecue. If you're raising money for a sports team or organization, give Sticky Lips a call. Time for Like It or Not. Jess joins us.
Like it or not, safe to root for the Buffalo Bills again, Mike?
It's safe if you're realistic. if you understand that they're a pretender, they're not a contender. And when I say that, I mean they have a lot to prove before they're an actual contender. You look in the AFC East, everybody's 3-3, right? If you just look with a blind eye, you say, well, they're tied for first. But we know what the truth is. They've beaten 2 bad teams and 1 marginal one on the road. They've gotten crushed in the other 3 games. They are what they are. They're okay. And when they play well, they can beat average to bad teams. And that, on this season, can keep you hanging in there. That win on Sunday keeps you hanging in there. So I like it. It's safe, but be careful because they could lose it at any minute.
Now, they win this Sunday, if they do. Not right. They win, but if they win, they have 2 very tough teams after the bye, Houston and New England on the road. So they're 4-5, let's say. Their schedule is really easy.
It sets
like really easy. So they could be 9.
Well, Miami's at home. You still got St. Louis, Seattle, but certainly
but
they're
there's
not
no
playing
Pittsburgh,
the Giants.
no Baltimore's, no Giants, no Falcons. No, Seattle is probably one of the tougher teams.
If you look at the standings, how many teams in the AFC are over 500?
Oh, it's ridiculous.
Houston.
Right now, there's 14 teams in the NFL that can say they're in first place.
Yeah.
I can't wait for all the scenarios at the end, the tiebreakers.
And you think Buffalo will be involved in those scenarios when it gets down to that
I think what's realistic is in December, the Bills will be one of those teams mentioned as a possible wild card.
Because there's enough average to bad teams, like Kevin said, on the schedule to keep them in it.
9-7 might get them in. And 9-7, I don't know how they couldn't be 9-7, really. I mean, their schedule...
Seriously, you've watched the games, right?
It's not like you, buddy.
And this is after being at the New England game and watching the San Fran game. But, I mean, Miami's okay. Indy is not very good. It's at Indy, but certainly a game they can win. Yeah. There's just a list of games that
that'll be a lot more fun if
are not that tough.
Jess?
Like it or not, Lance Armstrong's separation from the Livestrong Foundation. Kevin?
A very good idea. I mean, it's finally, I think, come to an end. I've never seen anything where he said, I did not take anything. Didn't take steroids, PEDs, anything. He always said he didn't test positive. There's a big difference.
Would he have been any better off coming clean? I think
it's too late. I mean, he fought it so long. And the good he did, though, that's probably the thing that's lost and tarnishes his name, is that he really did do a lot of good for raising money for cancer awareness and cancer prevention and all of that. But just it's better that organization is able to, on its own, do what it has to do.
My impression of him hasn't changed. He did a lot of good. Did he cheat? Yes. Did Nike drop him? Yes. But his legacy is all the good that he did.
And Billy, nobody cared about his sport before he was in it. Nobody cares about it now. It's not like baseball or basketball or football where everybody cares. It's exactly what it is. But I'm glad he's not clouding the issue for a great organization. They can
I just
keep
have one
raising
question.
money.
Who's the winner of all those races then?
I have a better question. Has any champion of the Tour de France never tested positive?
It's a great question, Kev.
Yeah. I mean, every year the guy is somewhere along the way.
It seems like to have accomplished anything, he had to cheat to give himself a name to make this all work.
It's almost
we got one more. Let's get another quick one in. Jess, what do you got?
Like it or not, trash tweets. John?
Why not? We live in the trash era. We live in the trash culture. You had, Richard Sherman of Seattle crushing Tom Brady, Asante Samuel tweeting at his ex-coach. Hey, why not? It's all part of life right now.
Why does Tom Brady draw this kind of ire from his peers?
Because he's a pretty boy, he's gotten everything he wants, and there's a perception that it's a little bit slanted towards him. He gets the calls.
The tuck rule, that you can't hit a quarterback below the knees. Every rule change that's come about, or every rule that existed that no one ever heard of.
Every time he gets hit,
it's Brady's at the focal point.
He looks for a flag.
And it's that video of him trying to dance over in Brazil one time. He should get grief for that.
Yeah, and he's married to one of the most beautiful girls in the world. A lot of jealousy there.
You're going to miss him when he's gone. When we come back, we have some unfinished business.
Hi, I'm Heather, and you're watching the Rochester Press Box from MacGregor's.
Hi, this is Jess Clemmer down here at MacGregor's on East Ave. We'd love for you to come and join us for football this Sunday. You can come see the Bills as well as all your favorite teams. We have around 30 different TVs, so you can watch multiple games at once. We're also running a bunch of great beer specials on Bud Light as well as some of our seasonals. And if that's not your thing, we have almost 70 beers on tap. So we'd love to see you down here.
Welcome back to the Rochester Press Box here from MacGregor's downtown. Unfinished business. Michael.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about Chinoso Obako and Bishop Kearney. Young kid. He's a senior this year, basketball player. He's from Nigeria. He made his call to go to Syracuse next year. And one, I think that's fantastic. I love it when we have local guys who are good enough and can play at SU because so many people follow SU. But it also made me think about the fact that they're moving to the ACC. And if you think of going to the ACC and playing Duke and North Carolina every week, then wouldn't it be a great thing? But the truth is, it's not going to be what a lot of people hope it is. I'm going to miss the days of the Big East. It just makes me think of it more, the Georgetown battles, what it was like. It's going to be a very different thing and a very different conference, but at least we got a local guy playing there at some point and maybe a couple other ones to follow down the line.
Won't Bishop Kearney be something to see this year locally?
They're loaded.
And Thomas Bryant, about 2 years, hopefully goes to Syracuse. Kevin Durant lookalike. Incredible kid.
Kid's going to be good.
That'd be kind of cool, Johnny.
For years, Notre Dame has been out of the national championship landscape, the BCS landscape. Finally, they're now back in it, and people aren't happy about where they rank. They're fifth in the BCS. I don't got an issue with it. For years, everyone said Notre Dame stinks and we like it. Now, all of a sudden, they're good and people don't like it. Here's the problem. Notre Dame plays as good a defense as anyone in the country. Their quarterback, albeit maybe a freshman, can make some plays. They've beaten up on some Big Ten teams that, let's face it, the Big Ten stinks. Stink, stank, stunks, all three. But Notre Dame still has to play Oklahoma, and they still have to play USC. Now, they beat Stanford. Stanford beat USC. If Notre Dame should run the table, there's no doubt about it. They're a legitimate national championship contender. Just let this whole thing play out. People are even upset Florida's number 2. I think college football is at its best when Notre Dame is winning and they're in the conversation. Nothing. Just like when the Yankees are in the postseason, I think it's great for baseball. I think it's great for college football when Notre Dame is relevant.
And one quick thing, in the BCS, usually you got to be in the top 5 to make the national championship. Both times Florida won it, they were outside of the top 5. Now they're number 2. Who knows where it's going to end up?
How big is the Southern Cal Notre Dame game?
I'll tell you, the Oklahoma game in a few weeks is mammoth. Brian Kelly can recruit. They're playing great defense, and that defense, to me, is as good as anyone I've seen. Next Alabama's, and possibly LSU.
Excellent. Kevin.
Speaking of teams that are relevant when they're in the playoff picture, the Yankees. And they're always there. But this is the one time, well, it happens every now and then, but this is a time the Yankee haters are reveling. I mean, you have to have the Yankees and that evil empire, what they are, to enjoy what this is right now. To see feeble swings, to see that all or nothing swing that produces nothing. They're getting what they paid for right now. They paid for a team that can't play the fundamental baseball that a lot of other playoff teams do. And because of it, well, we see what they can do.
Now, Kevin took my idea.
Sorry, Mark McGuire.
Well, I knew that it wouldn't look good coming from a Red Sox fan, but as a Twins fan who had to watch this all the time when they played the Yankees.
Cardinals the most fun team to watch right now going? St. Louis.
Year in and year out.
What do you mean? They lose Albert Pujols, they're supposed to be dead, and the genius of all geniuses, Tony La Russa's gone, and they still keep winning?
They find players who no one's heard of that suddenly come up with big hits.
They have this amazing thing where they swing the bat and they actually hit the ball.
The Yankees have a lineup full of all-stars and players that everyone knows.
They're starting to look like beer league softball players.
That's a culture, too, I think. Isn't it in St. Louis? It's a culture.
Yep.
They're just good because they put those uniforms on.
Just like the Yankee culture. Put those pinstripes on. Used to be.
Says the guy wearing pinstripes.
All right, well, my thing is it's related to the extent that it involves Derek Jeter and seeing Jeter on the ground in the game and his season over with the broken ankle and all. A mark frozen in time. And Ray Lewis, there wasn't a moment where Ray Lewis was actually injured and you saw him on the ground or anything like this. But we lost both Jeter and Lewis this week, and there were just 2 guys that really mean a lot to their sport. And certainly I think they'll probably both play again. My thing is, a caution, making it's really so bad because these guys have already been to the mountaintop. I thought, they've won World Series, they've won Super Bowls and stuff. They've had great careers. So, you don't have to feel too bad for them so much. I feel more for the guys who don't have a big career.
Who's the next Yankee leader?
Not
Robinson Cano. That what he's showing.
That's a good question.
This team?
When Jeter's gone, who takes over that?
I don't think he's currently on the 25-man roster.
Josh Hamilton will be the next.
Josh Hamilton, take it to the bank.
$200 million.
We'll be in New York next year.
Cool, guys. Thank you, Kevin, for joining us.
My pleasure.
Mike and John, as always, thank you very much.
Great action today. Really enjoyed it.
Can't believe I didn't get to
We'd
join
like
the
to take a minute
basketball.
to thank our sponsors, George Larry State Farm Insurance, also Sticky Lips Barbecue, and, of course, MacGregor's here from downtown Rochester. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again next week.